This season of Impossible Dreams is brought to you by our charity champion, the ALS Network. The ALS Network provides critical care to patients, families, the community, funding to help end ALS with research. We could not be more grateful to the ALS Network for their support, not just of season 1, but now of season 2. Their big gala is this January. It's their Champions Gala. They are honoring the one, the only Eric Dane, whose advocacy work is already affecting the lives of millions. Please visit the alsnetwork.org to learn more about their mission, how you can get involved and make a donation. Thank you so much. And let's get into today's episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Impossible Dreams. I am your host, Aaron Lazar, and I'm so grateful and I'm so excited today for a very, very special episode called ALS Hope and Healing. It's a roundtable with some incredible human beings, and we're really excited to be here today to share hope and healing with the ALS community and anybody who's interested. And we're getting this episode out to you during the holidays. We just filmed it, but we wanted to share this with everybody because it's such an important time of year. I've got 3 incredible humans here. Sheri Strahl, the CEO of the ALS Network, Dr. Rick Bedlack, head of ALS at Duke University, and Albert Karam, one of the chief data scientists at PCCI. I am purposely not introducing them a lot because I would love it if you all could please introduce yourselves, excite the audience with your many amazing, important credits because you guys are extraordinary. I've been blessed and proud to know you, some of you for a couple years now, some of you just more recently, but you know, what you are all doing inspires me and gives me hope. And I'm so honored and grateful that you're joining us here today on Impossible Dreams. Let's start with you, Sheri.
Hey. Well, it's wonderful to be here. I am Sheri Strahl, President and CEO of the ALS Network. My background is public health and business administration, so a little bit different than my colleagues here today. ALS Network is one of the largest patient advocacy organizations in the nation, and we are working through 3 mission pillars of care, research, and advocacy, leaning hard into our mission, leaning hard into what the ALS community needs from us today and how we can be a part of solving the puzzle that is ALS tomorrow.
Beautiful. Thank you. I have so much to add to your bio, which I will do, flattering you hopefully soon. Rick, can we hear from you?
You got it. So I'm Rick Bedlack, neurologist at Duke University. And I saw my first person with ALS about 28 years ago when I was still in my residency. And I'll never forget that person's story or their examination findings. I thought it was the most amazing and most terrible condition I'd ever come across. And I'll also never forget how I felt when my attending that I was learning from walked into the room and said, "This is what it's called. We don't know why it happens and there's nothing to do for it. The person's just going to have to go home and get their affairs in order." And I said, there's got to be a better way. And I set about trying to build something different at Duke. And from an early point in my attending career, realized that the way I wanted to do it was in partnership with patients. And so I've learned so many things, and I'm working on so many different areas that I never dreamed I would be involved in. A training program to empower people living with the disease to be full research partners, something called ALS Untangled to investigate alternative and off-label treatments, and studying people who are doing extraordinarily well, people that I call outliers, and learning that there's at least 3 things different about them, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, never dreamed my career would look like it does, but couldn't be more excited.
Amazing. Thank you, Rick. And Albert, what about you? What brings you here today?
No, thank you, Aaron. Happy to be in such good company. My name is Albert Karam. I'm the Chief Information Officer at the Parkland Center for Clinical Innovation, PCCI. We're a nonprofit think tank hub that does machine learning and artificial intelligence We've been doing this for about 15 years now. I'm a mathematician, data scientist by trade. I'm not a clinician, don't have as much of the clinical expertise, but I have been developing AI ML solutions for hospitals, payers, hospital-based organizations, community-based organizations, and leveraging not just the medical information, but also trying to mirror that with things like social determinants of health, non-medical drivers of health, and really trying to look at the holistic view of the person, not just when they show up in the EMR. So trying to tackle that from the mathematics approach.
Amazing. And my much belated apologies for having known you for at least a few months now and been mispronouncing your last name the entire time. Albert Karam. I will never get that wrong again.
No problem.
Real quick for everybody listening, watching, my connection to these three human beings is fascinating in and of itself. Every ALS journey is different for every person, every family. But so the first person that I actually got connected to with of the three of you was Dr. Bedlack. I wanted to be a patient of yours, Rick. I tried so hard. You are very busy. You run an incredible clinic, and your patients love you so much that it is almost impossible to become a patient of yours. At least it was 4 years ago when I was trying. But I found out from one of my doctors that there are 60 reversals of ALS, probably like 6 months into the journey, right? So at least 3.5 years ago. And I was like, wait, what? There's 60 reversals. What are you talking about? And they said, yeah, Dr. Bedlack studying at Duke. So I started to hunt you down, man. I started to stalk you, started to ask you questions on email. And wouldn't you know, this is the way God works when it's all bigger than you. Here we are, Rick. We're about 4 months in together to you being the head clinician on the Impossible Dream Machine, where we're working with Albert and the folks at PCCI and Sheri and some of the folks at the ALS Network to use AI to look at ALS. You have no idea where your life's going to go, people. But so that's how you and I sort of connected, Rick. And I'm so grateful to have you here. Sheri, you are the home network, now the ALS Network, formerly ALS Golden West. Heard about you guys, was like, I don't know what they do. I don't know why I'm going to need them. I'm good. You had Emma Karavardanian reach out as a care manager. Is that her title?
Yep, you got it.
And she said, listen, if there's anything you need. I said, no, I'm good. Don't worry about it. And I started giving speeches in people's homes called The Impossible Dream. And I was singing The Impossible Dream, to dream, the impossible dream. And I look out and Sheri and Asher and Cheryl, and I don't even know, maybe one other person from ALS Network are sitting in the audience. There's only 20 people there. And I was like, these are amazing humans. Like, you guys didn't have to come. They're like, yes, we did. We've been buds ever since. You've honored me with awards. I think I'm on some kind of honorary board member or patient. Tell me what I am. What am I?
You are an advisory trustee. And even though you're not exactly sure what the role is, you're one of our best.
All it means to me is that I support you in any way that I can, talk about you as much as possible, collaborate with you whenever we can, and do everything I can to tell people about how genuinely amazing the organization is and you are. So, Sheri, you've been a supporter of mine ever since, not just from, we care about our patient standpoint, but from leadership, from curiosity about the creative and sort of hope-driven projects that I'm trying to lead, and you guys getting involved. And I just couldn't be more grateful to have you here. And Albert, we got connected. My business partner, Brett Goldberg, and I started to put together this AI initiative to look at ALS, having been inspired by Mark Cuban, who came on the podcast. Go listen to episode 1 of Impossible Dreams. We kicked it off with the one and only Mark Cuban, who said, here's what I would do with AI to look at ALS. I said, you know what? That's a good idea, Mark. I've been talking to Dr. Bedlack and a few other folks about that for about 1.5 years. Maybe it's time to revisit that. We went through a pretty heavy vetting process with PCCI. You guys were like, look, this mission is too important for us to take it lightly. We want to make sure that whatever you guys are trying to achieve, we think we can help you do. And we had a couple months of meetings, and then you and your amazing team led by Steve Miff, the CEO, were like, listen, let's do it. And here we are just a couple months later, Albert, and we've got some inspiring results, some groundbreaking results that are leading us into phase 2 of our collaborative research. And I could not be dumber than you. I've learned that over the last couple months, and more grateful to you and PCCI. Okay, so everybody, now that you've got a background on these incredible humans and a little bit of what we're up to, I just want to kind of jump in and sort of ask you all why each of you are here. Why is it important that we talk about hope and healing in ALS today? Albert, can we start with you?
Happy to. So ALS affects so many people are affected by people who have had ALS. I know I had personally one of my very close advisors and teachers from high school passed from ALS at a very young age. And then on my wife's side, her grandfather passed from ALS, and it's so tragic, and it's such a rapidly progressing disease. The fact that there are reversals or there are cases that are improving is a miracle to say the least. I've been trying to work really hard in the medical industry to find outliers, to find and detect rare cases, and to use mathematics in a way that is not just predicting the obvious. We've had a few models that we've had that predict mortality in a hospital setting, right? 99% of people still survive when they get admitted to a hospital, but 1% don't, and we want to identify those as early as possible, and we're taking a similar approach here. What drives me to this is that vision of this is a really hard problem to solve, and I'm sure there are many folks who have tried to solve this problem in the past and been reading articles and trying to catch up on all the giants that have worked in this industry previously. But I mean, this is a puzzle that we think now can be solved using AI and using machine learning to look through all that data that just humans looking at with their bare eyes are not going to see. And so it's been, a really interesting Rubik's Cube. I got my Rubik's Cube sitting up here. Really interesting Rubik's Cube to try and solve, and just fascinating to see the data and fascinating to talk with individuals, Aaron, such as yourself, who are going through this progression. The last thing I'll say is just, I remember when we first started, you were still able to move your arms and your hands a bit. And one day we got on a call and you go, "Hey, yesterday I couldn't move my hand." And I mean, that just showed how important this is, and to not take it lightly and to not do it slowly.
Hi, everyone. I just want to take a moment to speak about a cause that is so near and dear to my heart, the ALS Network. The ALS Network is not only our charity champion, helping us to bring season 1 and now season 2 of Impossible Dreams to you, our audience, but the ALS Network is a critical care organization. They provide care, most of it free, to patients like me, our families, the community. They help fund research to end ALS. And this January, coming up, is their Champions Gala. It happens once a year. It's incredibly important. It's a huge fundraising event for them. And they honored me 2 years ago. This year, they are honoring Eric Dane. You know Eric Dane from Grey's Anatomy. And recently, I worked with Eric Dane in a show on Amazon called The Countdown. Eric Dane's courage to speak about his diagnosis and living with ALS has already affected the lives of millions. And Eric, with his courage and resilience, is really helping to change the conversation, which is what we're all trying to do here. ALS is not just a patient's problem. It's an everybody issue. We all need to work together to help flip the script. So you can help by visiting alsnetwork.org and learning about the mission, donating, supporting, learning how you can get involved. We appreciate your love and support so much. Thank you. And now back to the episode. Amazing. And thanks for sharing that, Albert. And I think one of the things that fires me up just to hear you speak is like you get diagnosed with this thing and you just go, so many people start going, well, how can I help? How can I help? What can I do? And I didn't even know. I was like, well, there's ALS organizations you can donate money and there's research. Well, where's the money go? I don't know. But, people need it. They need wheelchairs. They need research. They got to try and find a cure. What fires me up is to hear you talk about, like, we're attacking this thing. We're getting specific. It gives me hope. And so I hope it gives people out there hope, because a lot of people with ALS and their families have no idea what these research organizations are doing. And there are amazing research organizations, and there are amazing clinical organizations like Duke ALS, and amazing care and support organizations like the ALS Network. But it's very hard to give a family that's starting to go through this any idea of like where the hope is in the forest, right? So Sheri, moving to you, like I said, I didn't know what I would need. You guys have been through this for a long time. You've been in a leadership position now recently at ALS Network, but at other organizations for a long time. And, you're not only one of the most empathetic and sort of kind leaders that I've met, but you also are really creative, really inspired, and always bringing like a fresh light to what can seem like a really dark space. So what brings you here today?
Thank you so much, Aaron. I love your reflections back, and certainly being lighthearted and laser focused is how we approach this. And there are a couple of things that come to mind. One is we need to turn over every stone. From the research perspective, this project is so creative, so unique, and we've talked a little bit about this before, the two of us. It's so worthy of exploring, and I'm so glad to be a part of that conversation. Related to that, we're always thinking about helping people live with ALS. We're always thinking about prolonging independence, maximizing quality of life. And hope is a big part of that. And there is reason for hope. This work that we're talking about today, tons of other promising research that's happening, the incremental understandings we've had, tofersen making its way to market for the SOD1 ALS population. There are so many reasons to be hopeful. And, what's often not really talked about is that there is this biological component, this medical part of living with ALS. And Albert, you were just alluding to that. In addition to the physical changes, there's a whole spiritual, existential, psychological aspect of being a person living with ALS, being a part of a family navigating ALS. And conversations like these about hope, about some of the other Impossible Dreams podcast discussions are really helping to open up conversations about, what is hope? What does it look like to live with hope? What is gratitude? And that is critical for quality of life and being a complete human being. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and
I think you're amazing.
Oh, thank you. I mean, we're in the four of us, right, in the mutual admiration club of each other. I think it's huge. I don't want to spend too much time talking about me in this episode. I just want to say to people out there who just heard what you said, the psychological, spiritual, emotional component, the mental component of this disease or any disease, right? How do you deal with it? Well, for whatever reason, my path with this has been, the opportunity to transform a nightmare into a divine opportunity for change has allowed me to remember the truth of who I am. What's the simplest way of putting that? That the mind is meant for greater things than just serving the simple 3D narrative of who you thought you are and what you were supposed to do and the body you thought you were supposed to have and the name that you have and the relationship. I have realized through the existential, spiritual awakening of using this journey to grow and open myself up, obviously with the goal of how do I heal my physical body? Well, I don't know. So I'm going to heal my mind, my emotions, and my spirit first. And through doing that, I have not only remembered the truth of who I am, right, which is the divine consciousness, divine awareness, who we all are, a soul inhabiting a body, but I've also, come fully aligned with this mission of the Impossible Dream platform. How did I know that some song that I sang 25 years ago would become the anthem of my life and the inspiration for all these different projects that are all driven to what? First, it was to help people dream the impossible dream. Now it's saying, no, live it. Live it. I don't care if you have ALS. You can keep dreaming. You can keep dreaming. You can find so much in it. And so, that's where I find hope. And Rick, circling to you, I think it's tough because the 60 reversals are controversial amongst the medical community. And can you tell us why you think that is? Is it because there's not many of them? Is it because it's hard to figure out what's behind that. And can you tell us sort of, some of the things that probably the three of us here know about you, but people at home may not, which is how you are so uniquely positioned as a clinician to bring hope to your patients, and why sort of false hope might be, for lack of a better way of putting it, it's bullshit.
Let me start with the hope part of it, Aaron, because 25 years into my career, if I go back, I would have thought I would have found the answer to this by now. I haven't fixed it yet, but I do think I found something that I did not expect. And that is this hope business. Like, nobody taught me growing up or in medical school or residency how important hope was. I learned it from some of my early patients that came to see me. And I've been studying it now for over 20 years. I've come to believe that hope is more than just an emotion. I actually think hope is a treatment. If you look across every disease, people with more hope are doing better. And that includes ALS. Like, not only the 64 ALS reversals, but the hundreds of people who are more than 10 years into their ALS and doing really well, including some who can still participate in marathons. They're some of the most hopeful people you'll ever meet. There's biological explanations for this. There's differences in functional MRI, brain activation patterns in more hopeful people. There's markers in the blood and spinal fluid of hope, anti-inflammatory markers. There's also practical reasons. People who are more hopeful are the ones who are more likely to take care of themselves. And so it baffles me that this is not being taught in medical school. But I had to learn a lot about this. I had to read a lot of oncology literature to learn to be the best hope giver. And I've learned that it starts with me. Like, I can't walk into a room and be in a bad mood. I can't be upset about something I saw on the news or something that happened at my institution. I've got to have a good night's sleep. I've got to put on something. That's something for me that brings me a lot of positivity and joy, the crazy outfits. I got to be really careful about the words I choose at the bedside. I don't think that we should be telling people on day one, you have 2 to 3 years to live, get your affairs in order. Like, those are not only inaccurate, but they're hope crushing, those kinds of statements. I mean, I think when we talk about progression, it should be if things get worse, not when things get worse. When we talk about something difficult like a feeding tube or a ventilator, it should be plan A is we're going to try something new. And hopefully we can stop or reverse this. But if we can't, I'm going to need your help deciding about a feeding tube or a ventilator. Let me explain the pros and cons of it. And you tell me how you want to act on that if things do get worse. I think it's important to see people as more than their diagnosis. And this is part of why it's so hard to get in to see me, because I spend a ton of time with people in and out of the clinic. I mean, I'm constantly traveling around the world now to spend time with my patients doing things. It allows me to see them as more than just the letters ALS. Like, we're so much more than our motor neurons. We've even got a trial underway now to see if we can get people to see that themselves. And if that boosts hope and allows them to do better. We're using an intervention from a professor who had ALS at UVA. It's called the Turbocharged Living Tool. It's just a 5-minute questionnaire, 12 questions about parts of you that have nothing to do with your motor neurons, your sense of humor, your kindness, your compassion, your advocacy. And it's amazing when you start asking those kinds of questions in a clinic, how someone just, their shoulders kind of lift and their face just brightens, because now they have perspective that ALS is just part of who they are. It's not their whole story. But yeah, I mean, I'm really into hope. And I think the more I learn about it, the more I realize that I think a lot of doctors are afraid to try to boost hope because they're afraid of crossing that line into false hope. And this is drilled into us in medical school. Be careful of giving your patients false hope. Every day I see tons of examples of people being sold false hope. Come to our clinic, give us $70,000. We'll inject you with something, and it's 100% guarantee you'll reverse your ALS. Like, that's false hope. Those statements are not grounded in fact. But what I'm doing in clinic, this whole approach that I call stitching strength, that I made a movie about because I believe so strongly in it, every single thing I do, I can show you that there's science behind it.
I mean, if you don't have hope after that, we've got more work to do here. So let's keep going. Yeah, I mean, look, I called false hope bullshit earlier. I agree with you. There is such a thing as false hope, but I don't think that it's not like doctors ever said to me, you know, the doctors never made that distinction. I had no idea when maybe even for the first 6 months to a year of living with ALS, I had no idea there were people out there trying to sell treatments or modalities for insane amounts of money until a guy from Peru, was referred to me who wanted $20,000 to take my blood and put it into chickens, turn it into supplement pills and have me eat them, and said that he cured one woman with MS with that, but he had no idea what it would do for ALS. Okay, it's not going to be for me. But that wasn't the false hope that I was getting upset about. I was getting upset, like you said, that you're given a timeline, you're given things that really are not necessarily accurate unless the doctor specifically knows how fast or slow the progression or regression, as I'd rather call it, is going to go. And I don't know. I read a book by Jeff Rediger called Cured about how medical doctors in med school, the lore and the myth around spontaneous remission was, you're in med school and you hear like, no, it doesn't happen. It's like 1 in 100,000 or something. But when he actually did the research, it was more like 3,500 in 100,000 or something. Don't quote me on the number, but so the number 1 in 100,000 just became, it was myth, right? It was just something passed along in the halls. And whether that's directly applicable here, I think I'm just trying to get to the core, that one of the things I appreciate that we are doing, trying to do, helping other people do, is change the conversation, flip the script. Because if you come into something with no hope at all, how are you supposed to find it? And so why not come into something with some hope, even if it's a little bit, and grow that from there? And I can certainly say that having come fully alive as myself in this body, despite what this body has been doing and going through for the last couple of years, I am so not this body. I'm not. It's an incoherent me in this thing where I can't pick my nose. That doesn't make any sense to me. I go, look at me. It doesn't make any sense. And so I keep going and I keep trying to tell other people, and like you said, Rick, it starts with you, right? It starts with you, Albert. It starts with you, Sheri. It starts with me. I believe in that thing. And I teach my kids, be the change that you want to see in the world, because then other people look at you and get inspired. All right. So where are we at right now? And Rick, we'll start with you and work backwards. Where are we at right now from an ALS landscape of what is giving you, and I know you could probably answer this question for an hour just because of the guy that you are, but if you could pick 3 things that if you're a patient or a family with ALS right now that are hopeful, like Sheri mentioned tofersen. Let's talk about that. Maybe use tofersen as a jumping point to these ASOs that are being created, and then give us 1 or 2 or 3 other things that you're like, listen, this is what's hopeful right now as far as the science.
Yeah, so I'll start with tofersen. So tofersen is the home run drug that we've been waiting for since ALS was first described in the 1800s, right? It's for a small subset of ALS that's caused by mutations in a gene called SOD1. We knew exactly how those mutations killed motor neurons. And so we knew exactly how to design a drug that would block that from happening. Lo and behold, it's a blockbuster. Most people who go on that drug stop progressing, and about 25% get substantially stronger over the years on that drug. That's clearly not the natural history of any form of ALS. So that by itself is something that I always tell patients about, that we do have one home run. We're going to have more. So the second thing is that we're recognizing now that this idea of going after all ALS with one drug it's not going to work. Like, I'm going to date myself here. I'm much older than all the rest of you on this call, but I can remember growing up, I used to hear on TV, donate to American Cancer Society. Let's find a cure for cancer together. Like, there's not going to be one cure for cancer. We know that now. People would laugh at that. But we have a lot of cures. There's a lot of forms of cancer we can cure. We just had to recognize that it's not exactly the same disease in everyone and go after each person's case with personalized medicine. And that's where we're moving. in ALS. Like we've already got our blockbuster. It's another antisense drug that blocks a gene called FUS. We saw a paper published on it this summer, and I think there were about 10 patients in the paper. And I mean, one of them was getting substantially stronger, like recovered the ability to walk and take care of herself, all these things that she had lost because of the science of how that drug was developed. We're going to keep seeing that, but we're going to get to a point where we run out of knowledge about what's causing ALS. Like 12% of cases, we know there is a single genetic mutation that causes those. There's 40 different genes, but for 88%, we don't know why the person has ALS. And that's where Albert and his crew and what we're doing with the Impossible Dream Team, I think is gonna help us hit another home run. We're gonna find at least some subsets of cases where we understand either why they have it or why they're doing so much better than everyone else. And that's gonna allow us to do more personalized medicine approaches. But you said I could have three things. The third thing is these outliers. I mean, there's so many people out there who are doing much better than what you read in the textbook. And I just try to surround myself with people like that. You know, most of the time when you think about an outlier, you think about someone who's doing better progression-wise, and that's clearly true. But I look at outliers like yourself, Aaron, people who are beating the disease spiritually. Like I try to soak that up. That's part of the reason I love hanging around with you, man. You're living proof that people can beat this disease on another level. One day, everyone's going to beat it in terms of saving their motor neurons. But in the meantime, if we can just get people to keep this disease right-sized, everybody can beat it spiritually.
Wow, man. I love that dream. Sheri, what about you? I know the ALS Network just released a press release recently about some exciting research that you guys are a part of. Can you tell us about that? And is that something that you think is, one of the harbingers of hope into 2026?
Absolutely. Yeah, we are providing research innovation grants for really creative ideas that also have a sound rationale behind them and trying to push those forward quickly to get some proof of concept or not, so that then we can start building on some new learnings, new ideas. And again, really looking to bring that innovation piece into it, looking to shift the field exponentially, not incrementally. So we're very excited to be contributing that to the space. And then, listen, I'm going to lean into your three things question that you gave to Dr. Bedlack. The work that's being done to help identify the different subgroups that Dr. Bedlack alluded to, so that we can better see what's working for which populations. I've been in this work for about 6.5 years, and in that short time, that conversation has completely shifted. So there may be something where when you look at everyone, the signal to noise ratio is very difficult. But when you figure out how to look at subpopulations, we can start seeing, oh, this thing works for this part of the ALS population. And that's really exciting to me, gives me a lot of hope. And then just looking at the ALS ecosystem itself, the collaboration, the types of conversations that are happening with different people from different areas, working on different parts of the ALS, Rubik's Cube, Sudoku puzzle that Albert alluded to, that is really impressive too. Just the thought leadership and sharing of ideas. It's happening on an incredible level that gives me a lot of hope.
Beautiful. And Albert, same question, but with a specific focus on you sort of being part of a world that, at least from my perspective, I'm so new to, I know very little about, and so many of us are hearing about it every day on the news in so many crazy ways, right? Data science and AI. What's happening? Give us a little bit there as to what brings you hope, whether it be with regards to ALS or other stuff that you guys are working on, and what's sort of exciting in the world. If you can, I don't know, give us a sneak peek. You're gonna have to sort of break it down for me, because I'm constantly amazed at what you guys are doing.
Sure. So there's really two main buckets that we look at. So one is on the machine learning side, more traditional statistics, right, that have been around forever. You're finding trends, you're finding relationships, you're trying to find causes between them. The infamous example is, when ice cream sales go up, so do shark attacks, right? It's not that one causes the other, they're just highly correlated. And the underlying factor, obviously, is the weather, right? More people are buying ice cream and going to the beach in the warmer weather. And so the science behind it is being able to take variables to identify an outcome that actually is causing it. So as you pull this lever, this other thing's going to go up or it's going to go down. And it's not just, a correlation, it's actually causing it. And that's the first step that we've taken with the existing data set that we have on these ALS patients, as kind of how Sheri had alluded to, and looking at the comparison between all those groups to see, to start, what are the correlations? Where's the ice cream shark correlation between them? And then prove, is that a correlation or is it a causation? And that's what machine learning can do, is machine learning can use statistics to say with significant confidence that yes, as you pull one lever, the other thing's going to go up or down, and not just, it just happens to be a coincidence. The next phase is the whole generative AI space that has emerged since ChatGPT just a couple of years ago, of being able to take the whole corpus of knowledge that exists on the internet, throw it into one AI model, ask it anything about it, and it spits out a very coherent and every day getting better answer. And this is sparking everything from autonomous vehicles to replacing the search engine. And so with the genomic data is terabytes and terabytes and terabytes in size. Using traditional machine learning will take years to crunch all of that data together. But with the generative AI space, it's using a neural network that can basically take shortcuts on a predefined infrastructure, a predefined structure of how different things relate to each other that already exists in the world. And so, as you said on the first podcast with Mark, throw it at AI and kind of see what comes back. And so we're taking a very phased approach here. First is that more traditional machine learning. Let's find the correlations. Let's find those relationships, attach some confidence to it, and then move into that genomic and that bigger data that's using that more agentic AI and see if we can actually achieve something that pops out that's different. And early on, we haven't validated entirely yet, but there are differences. It's not just random noise. There's not patients that are just completely the same across all of those groups.
Yeah, it's amazing, Albert. How long would it have taken, prior to AI? You were saying years.
It is a cost benefit analysis here. You can throw money at it and make things run in parallel and run, but usually even on the hospital side, we're dealing with small terabytes worth of data. When you get to genomic data, it's terabytes per person. So we're talking, massive amounts of data. It can get very computationally expensive. What previously, may have taken, months to run, now can get done in days or if not hours with some of the generative AI, which is really exciting.
Just to stay on this for a second, Albert, where, if at all, do you see this heading? Like, do you have the inside scoop on how fast this is growing? And if we were to fast forward to mid 26 or a year from now, or, a couple years from now, all I hear is it's the Terminator and Skynet's going to be, it's just like, relax, everybody. Like, we're doing some good stuff with AI, but should we relax? Like, what's going on?
Well, it's scary and exciting at the same time. The immediate thing is it's going to replace the search engine, which is not ALS related, but very common. You do a Google search of something, now it's going to be AI search. That's where the world is moving. I equate this to the existence of Wikipedia. Everyone was so nervous about the integrity of encyclopedias when Wikipedia came out. Oh, anyone can contribute, and it's not reliable. But now it's one of the most reliable, if not the most reliable, database in the world, because everybody can contribute to. And that's what's going to happen with this, is that there's so much open source and so much community putting into it that it's going to continue to accelerate at an exponential rate. One quick example I had was, I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I think it was, for people to use Spotify to reach 100 million users was like 50 months. And then, it was like Instagram was like, 30 months or 40 months. ChatGPT did it in a week. They had 100 million users. I think it was like 13 days, 14 days. I could be wrong. Basically 2 weeks, they hit 100 million users just like that. And that was 2 years ago. So when I say exponential growth on this, it is exponential growth. And it's scary how good it's getting, but it's also, I view it truly as a tool in the tool belt if used for good and used in the right way.
You guys, I just want to take a second to say thank you to you, the audience. This show doesn't happen without you. I am, from the bottom of my heart, I am deeply grateful to you because I started The Impossible Dream as a platform to help myself heal and to help other people heal. This podcast is all about that. And without you, that can't happen. We help each other heal. It really does take a village. So if you could just take a second to click and subscribe, like us, rate and review the show. Your comments really do help. Not only do they help us bring you other guests that you want to hear from, but they help us improve the show. They help us grow the show. Your engagement helps us expand what's possible for the reach of Impossible Dreams. So thank you, truly thank you. Thank you for being a part of the Impossible Dreams team. Well, what do you know? Last question for you, Albert, and thank you. What do you know? Can you share anything, outside of the Dream Machine? Do you know of any research that's going on that you're at liberty to talk about where you're like, here's an example of, something that maybe even 3-5 years ago, not possible. Now, this is what's happening and this is where it's headed and problems that are being solved?
Oh, there's so many. The simplest example, I know it's a silly example, but the simplest one, website creation and design. You used to have to hire full teams and it would take multiple months of iterations. You can stand up a website now within an hour, fully developed.
What about
things
medical?
like that?
Give us some medical hope.
So on the medical side, I'll give you, yes. Okay, here's a perfect example. It's one of our projects. So patient comes in for imaging, right? CT, MRI, mammo, whatever imaging they have. They get seen by the physician, and then you have to wait a couple days. The physician reviews it. They write up their notes, so on and so forth. That's the normal progression. Well, at the hospital, they were going back and manually reviewing each one to make sure that everyone had their follow-up appointments. And there was an error rate with that. It was very time consuming, thousands and thousands of images per day. Well, guess what? We threw agentic AI at the problem, and within a day, we can now identify and look back years worth of imaging and identify patients that require a follow-up, have an abnormality, and then we're rolling that right into an automated scheduling assistant that can help schedule them and get them in to be seen, to have a safety net for people who may have fallen through the cracks that would not exist in the real world. It would require, the equivalent of it would require about a 25-person staff to spend all day, every day reviewing those. And even then, the humans get tired, fatigued, and the model and the AI outperforms the manual review.
Rick, are you also a radiologist?
No.
We should add a radiologist on the show. I want to hear from the front lines of radiology these days. That's wild. Thank you, Albert. Rick, do you think that you said that you started this 28 years ago? Is that what you said?
That was my first experience with ALS. I started my career as an attending, trying to build the ALS program about 25 years ago.
I'm just trying to imagine, where your brain is at as far as where this is headed over the next 25 years. Can you even fathom it? Is AI that much of a game changer with, boots on the ground daily operations at your clinic, or is it still a little far, at reach? And how long before you think we're curing this thing without us obviously directly quoting you and holding you responsible for some kind of timeline?
Oh, no, I'm optimistic that we're going to have more home run therapies like tofersen. I think in the next 2 years, we'll probably have 3 or 4 more home runs for genetic subsets. And probably in the next 5 to 7 years, we'll have more home runs for people with what we today call sporadic ALS, because we're going to understand why some of those people have their disease. But like I said in the beginning, I don't think there's going to be one cure. I think there's going to be cures. But I expect the majority of ALS to be very treatable the way SOD1 ALS is now. The majority of patients will have drugs like that in the next 10 years. That's my belief.
Man, wouldn't that be nice? That would be nice. And yeah, I'll just say to patients out there and their families listening to this, as somebody who's gone through so many of the clinical experiences of the first 4 or 5 years of this, journey, because it's not one size fits all, because it's not, you have to advocate for yourself to your doctors. They are working as hard as they can. The researchers, the care organizations, they're working as hard as they can to help you. But if you have a gut sense of something, for example, I heard of a medication, I research it on my own, I'll ask my clinicians about it, and then I have to make a decision whether I want to try it or not. And just because it didn't work on certain people doesn't mean it might not work on me, because it moves differently in everybody. And so you really do have to advocate for yourself. And you can only do that from a place of quiet. You can't do it from a place of panic. You can't do it from a place of fear. And so surround yourself with as much love and support as you possibly can, so that you can make the best decisions for you and your family, and then lean on the people like the Alberts, Sheris, and Dr. Bedlacks of the world, who are there to help and support you. Sheri, with regards to support, there's some people who I'm sure, they're appreciative of our conversation about the future and exciting things that are happening, but they need hope right now. And you guys offer so much care and support, so much of it for free. If somebody is in need, what do they do?
Absolutely. Just go to alsnetwork.org. We're right there. Or find me on social media, and I respond to people with ALS directly and personally all the time.
And you have like almost 3,000 people that you guys help.
We're supporting about 2,600 people living with ALS right now, and we are all about meeting every single person where they are. Much to the point you made, Aaron, what's right for you may be different for the next person. And we provide really reliable information, and then empower people to advocate for themselves and plan a path that is a fit for them and what they want to do. And we talk a lot, this kind of ties back to where we started the conversation. We talk a lot at ALS Network about very intentionally being about hope, but not hype. There's no hype. Hope is real. Hype is not. So we're here to support people with hope, good information, and compassionate. And yes, as you mentioned, free support, meeting every person where they're at.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, I've learned in my experience that for a long time, I spent so much time and energy every day working on the healing of it all, going, well, it should go like this. It's supposed to go like that. It's supposed to go like this. Like, you just have no idea. Why? I mean, if we can figure out, right, as part of the machine, why I can talk and certain people can't, but certain people can, run marathons, right, Rick? But I can't, it's so interesting how it moves and how it functions. And one of the things that I'm so really proud of as a member of the community that's, watched this happen, at least for my eyes over the last couple of years, perhaps you guys can enlighten me as to whether it happened sooner and it's been happening longer. But it seems like the reputation of the community that used to be siloed is now all really working together. I know that there was recently the Northeastern ALS conference, the NEALS conference. There was another one in San Diego. Can anybody here, jump in if you could speak to how things have maybe changed in that regard, to the point where, here we are with a data scientist, a patient, and, the ALS network and, Dr. Bedlack working on an AI machine together. I just love that. And I think that gives people a lot of hope too.
Yeah, I'll just mention, in my 25 years, I've definitely seen a lot more cooperation, say in the past 5 to 10 years. I was met with open arms and kindness when I decided I wanted to do this. I didn't have a mentor. I would go to meetings and I would be the funny looking guy with the weird suits, and I'd come up to people like Dr. Jacobitz, Dr. Mitsumoto, Dr. Bob Miller. These were the giants, Terry Hyman Patterson. These were the giants, and I knew their names. But I would introduce myself, and they would ask me to come and sit and talk about what I was interested in and try to help me. So it was there, but I think now it's been more formalized. Like the Northeast ALS Consortium, don't let the name fool you. In fact, they just changed the name because it started in the Northeast. At first, it was just a few clinics in the Northeast that were in this organization. Now it's like 160 ALS centers all over the world.
Oh, that's great to know. Yeah, I didn't know why it was called Northeast.
Yeah, it started at Mass General in UMass, and it used to just be New England. The first meeting I went to, which was like 23 years ago, there might have been 25 people there in a little like Motel 6 in Boston. And just, now there's about 1,200 people that come to this meeting every year from all over the world.
Wow.
And, we share our ideas, like what kind of things are we thinking of doing trials on? What pilot trials have we done? What trials have we done that didn't work? Why do we think they didn't work? So it's just really open and free. And, Albert, your group's benefited from the sharing of all the data. Like there's a lot of large databases that used to be all separate, and now people are just wide open with them. All you have to do is fill out a little 5-minute application online to get access to hundreds of thousands of de-identified patients' data. So that's a big part of how we solve this faster too, is the world working together. It's not we all want to be the first one to do it, but not at the expense of keeping somebody else down. Like we'd rather cross the finish line together than not cross it at all.
It's the same ethos too that you're seeing with the researcher clinical community. It's that same ethos with a vast majority of the ALS nonprofit organizations. And, advocacy is a nice sort of example of that, where we're meeting together. There's something around a dozen ALS organizations. We're coming together every other week around federal advocacy priorities. And it is all of us working together that is moving forward things like Act for ALS and other critical legislation. And that there's power in the synergy of that. There's hope in the synergy of that. When we talk about how we're funding ALS research at the organizational level, ALS Network, I described what we're doing. We're doing innovation grants right now. That's really different from what's happening in other spaces. You've got someone like the Packard Center that's doing basic research. We're not going to set up a basic research program. We're going to work with the folks at Packard to help co-fund basic research that they're already doing. So there's all this sort of leveraging of efficiency in terms of administrative dollars and expenses, which means that ultimately you end up with more dollars going to scientists like Dr. Bedlack to support the important work that they're doing.
Yeah. Before circling back to you about that, Rick, because I want to sort of get into for a second, what's going on with national funding and how people can help. Albert, PCCI is a nonprofit organization connected to Parkland Health, correct? Can you tell us a little bit about if somebody is interested in helping at all, based on listening to this conversation, what can they do with regards to PCCI, and then we'll work back to Duke.
Yeah. So, if you're interested in PCCI or working with us or getting to know more about the solutions we have, our website is pccinnovation.org, or you can always email me, albert.karam@pccinnovation.org. One thing, if you don't mind me, Aaron, to both Dr. Bedlack and Sheri's point, the data now is different than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and especially around the collection methods. And I just want to be so thankful to all of the patients and the families of patients who have donated their data or allowed these organizations to be able to share that data, even anonymized, allows for us to be able to do this incredible work. The whole creation of the electronic medical records and these detection systems, none of the AI would be possible without that collection. So highly encourage the continuation of that.
Rick, what about you as far as, I think we spoke recently that you were saying Duke's lost a lot of grant money. Am I speaking accurately? And what can people do to help?
Yeah, it's been a tough year, really across every field when it comes to research. There's been a lot less federal support for research. Funds have been cut. Institutions have been penalized for various reasons. The indirect rate, which used to be the thing that supported a lot of administrators, which do critical things for people like me that are trying to launch new trials, it got drastically cut from about 65% down to like 25% just overnight. No explanation, no calculations, just it's going to be a new number today. So a lot of people got fired. So things are taking longer now than they've ever taken. And, institutions are having to make some tough decisions. We were talking earlier about, some of the restrictions on travel that some of us are facing. Like, that's a huge part of science to me, is being able to be at meetings to share my ideas and get feedback from my peers, but also to hear what they're working on and see if I can help them or if we can collaborate on things. And so this is not good. I think the first thing that listeners can do is they can reach out to their congressman and they can tell them they care about ALS research and they vote. And so we need to put back any funds that were taken away. We need to make sure we reauthorize something called the Act for ALS, which was a wonderful $500 million allocation back in, I believe it was 2021, that people with ALS convinced Congress to allocate $500 million in new resources, federal resources for ALS. And a substantial portion of that went for something called expanded access. There's never been federal funds for any kind of expanded access that I know of, but that kind of funding is critical to people who want to try things, which most of my patients want to try things.
Wait, so Rick, the expanded act, that funding was through Brian and Sandra Wallach, or no?
Well, they were certainly, some of the leaders in patient advocacy, but there were dozens of patient advocates who went in front of Congress to explain why we need more funding for this.
And without getting political, about Biden signed it over, yes, or Trump said yes.
Biden signed it.
Biden signed yes, and now the administration now is pulling back on that $500 million.
We don't know. So it's still authorized, but it's coming up for reauthorization. I believe it was, not mistaken, it was 5 years. So it's coming up for reauthorization.
So maybe a new ice bucket challenge could be a video, that goes viral to the administration to not cut that funding.
I think it's happening. I think IMALS is trying to make that happen.
Great.
Like, they asked me to record a video. They put it on social media, but I don't think a lot of people fully understand what's happening with the cuts in federal funding for research across the board, not just ALS. And I think if we don't get that money, we're going to have to come up with more private money if we want to keep this fast pace of discovery going. We're going to need patient advocacy groups. We're going to need individual families to step up and help fund some of this stuff if the government pulls away.
Sheri, it looked like you want to jump in.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in on Act for ALS, and we're majority of the advocacy organizations are poised and ready to jump into action at the end of this year to push for reauthorization come the new calendar year. Not to get too technical, there's a report that's going to provide some feedback, and we want to make sure that what we're asking for is responsive to the report, assessing Act for ALS. And related to that, in terms of becoming an advocate, ALS Network has an opportunity where you can click a button on our website, become an advocate, and there are actions ready, built, and there right now today that people can readily take to do exactly what Dr. Bedlack is suggesting, reach out to their legislators to encourage the reauthorization of Act for ALS and other critical ALS legislation too. So for that, for ours, you just go to alsnetwork.org, click on advocacy and check the Become an Advocate box, and you'll get automated notes on when we need you to take an action to help us preserve, retain, and expand federal funding for ALS research and other important access issues.
Thank you all. We're coming down to our final questions, and I was just looking because we got some questions from people tuning in at home, and these are two questions about the Dream Machine. One is, what is the impossible dream for the Impossible Dream Machine? What is our goal? And the other is, what sets it apart from other work being done with AI to look at ALS and other neurodegenerative disease? Maybe, Albert, we start with you. And
yeah, the impossible dream here, Aaron, you described it best before. It was predicting was it 4-minute mile, 5-minute mile, the really, really fast runners. Only a select few, people have ever done that. The whole point of this is to identify what it is about the patients that are slow progressors versus fast progressors or reversal progressors that's different. What are the differences? Can that difference be quantified? What levers can we pull to try and reverse course and actually identify the causes for why this is happening? That's the ultimate goal here.
We want to be sitting here in somewhere between 2 and 5 years saying that everybody's an outlier now, that there's no reason to say people live 2 to 3 years, because nobody survives that short period of time. Everybody's doing much better. And hopefully it's because of what we found and how we brought that new target into a clinical trial and combine some things to give everybody that amazing outcome.
Yeah, and Albert, what do you have buddies out there doing this kind of work? Is there anything that sets a specific project apart?
Not so much on the ALS front. I don't know if it's because of access to data or it's just, the smaller cohorts, in the industry and work that I'm at, most folks are focusing on the chronic diseases right now, your diabetes, hypertension, or some of the hospital operational things with the budget cuts and everything. A lot of hospitals are getting strapped a bit and trying to find operational efficiencies a little bit more than some of the curing of diseases. So we have not seen a whole lot of effort on this.
It's interesting. And if you would have told me, who knows how many years ago, that someday not only would I have been diagnosed with ALS, but I'd be sitting with a team of data scientists and CEOs and top clinicians working to solve ALS with AI, I would have looked at you with cross. I'd be like, what's AI? What are you even talking about, man? I'm doing musicals. I'm in Mamma Mia, the musical right now. So this just goes to say to everybody listening, thank you for tuning in, because you have no idea where your impossible dreams are going to help other people to live theirs. I would not be here without the three of you doing this. We would not be here without the one and only Mark Cuban, whose inspiration and support, initial investment, and continued support of our phased research is really helping us to do things that it sounds like nobody else in the world is doing. I don't know. I'd like to say I'm just a vessel, right? Just like the guys in the NFL come off the field at the end after they win and they're like, I give it all to God, man. I really do give this all to God. I have no idea how I ended up here, but I couldn't be more grateful to be surrounded by the amount of love and support, creativity, inspiration, and hope that the three of you bring, that the community brings, that so many people that reach out to me on Instagram and social, bring. I couldn't be more grateful. You guys help me heal. We help each other heal. And I thank you all for taking time this holiday season to sit down, share a little hope and healing with the Impossible Dreams audiences. And I send my love to you guys and your families, and wish you all a happy, healthy holiday season. I wish everybody at home a happy, healthy holiday season. And, we look forward to coming back here with some more great news for you guys in the coming weeks and the coming new year.